Crypto noobs, down at my mom's place right now. It's gonna storm. We're getting this. The storm's going through. You guys know how I love storms. If you've ever watched my videos the last few years, you know I love storms. I usually sit outside and wait, literally in the storm. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but anyway, I wanted to make a video today, kind of about Bitcoin, but more about monetary policy and who controls the money. The government prints money. We work and we make money for a living. Get your paycheck, cash check, and then you get the cash, right? And the cash that you get, it's a legal tender instrument. You can buy and sell things with it, but in reality, the money doesn't belong to you, right? It belongs to the government. They actually own the actual tangible dollar bills that are in your hand, which is a little bit spooky. Because I was at Meijer, which is a regional store in the Midwest today, and they had a sign up on their cash register that said, starting tomorrow, if you want to buy money orders, you have to have some type of government ID, like a driver's license. And I asked the girl, I said, well, what's the maximum you can get? And she said, well, I think you get $2,999.99. The reason is because IRS has rules that if it's more than that, they have to report it, right? But it's kind of sneaky, because what they're doing is they're saying, you give them your driver's license, they peg that to the money order, and it allows the government to track who's taking money on money orders, what they're doing with the money order, how you're spending it. It's called government control. I went to take $10,000 out of the bank earlier in the summer to buy some Bitcoin when it was down around 70,000 or 76,000. And when I did, the teller, really nice lady, and she said, well, hey, Mr. So-and-so, what are you taking the money out for? And I said, well, what difference does it make? And she said, well, I need to know what you're taking out for. I said, no, you don't need to know, because it's my money. And then the bank manager came out and he's like, yeah, we need to know what people are doing for money laundering. I said, well, I'm not laundering money. I have an account here. You have my ID. You know me. This is my money. And if you need to write anything down, you can write down, I'm taking your mother out for a date. Didn't like it very much. But in the end, they gave me the money because it's mine, right? But that's the point, is that my mom went to get money out of the bank, and she's like 80 years old when she did. Same thing, they said, what are you taking the money out for? And I told my mom, when they ask you that, tell them to stick it in their ass. It's none of their business. It's the government's way of saying, subtly, very subtle, we want to know, we just kind of know what you're going to do with your money. It's nobody's business what you do with your money. I can carry $20 bills around all day long and launder them all around the world, and no one says anything. But if your money is under some type of centralized control, like a bank, and they find out what you're doing with it, you can tell the government, right? Matter of fact, I think you can only deposit $5,000 a day, or under $5,000, $4,999, whatever a day. If it's more than that, the bank needs to report it to the government. Really? They have to report what you're doing with your money if you deposit in a bank? I was taking a marketing class at University of Michigan a number of years ago, and I remember the professor said that, we're talking about marketing. He said, you're a salesman and you want to get like the best traffic in town. We didn't have computers back then. He said, you want to put a sign somewhere, and you go up to someone's house and you say, hey, would you mind if you're at this four corners where there's lots of traffic, could I put like this billboard in your yard? And most people would say, well, no, you can't, because it's going to block my view of the traffic. He said, but if you went in and you asked if you put this tiny little sign in the corner right there by the four corners, would they mind? They would probably say yes. And if you came back the next week and said, hey, the sign's getting a little dirty from all the dust and traffic, can I put another sign there? And you were to put a little bit tiny or larger sign there the next week, and then a little bigger sign the next week. After about 6 months, you'd have a billboard. And the thing is, it happens it's so subtle that they're not paying attention. Suddenly they come home one day and they got a billboard in your yard and they wonder where it came from. But it happens in very small intervals. Things like the government telling banks, hey, ask customers what they're doing with their money. Or something like, I need to see your driver's license where you can buy a money order. It doesn't matter what you're going to do with it. Or when Carolyn Levitt came on, that White House press secretary came on last week and said something analogous to, Bitcoin is a commodity, and yeah, people are legally allowed to trade it, but we need to study it more, toward establishing a Bitcoin strategic reserve, so that it's legal and whatever else. And people are watching it. The noobs are going, oh, we got to wait and make sure that the U.S. government, everything's up and up. We don't give a damn what the U.S. government takes, what they think. Carolyn Levitt, the rest of you guys, Trump, everyone, we love you guys, but you know what? Bitcoin is decentralized. It doesn't care who you are. You could be in a third world country in a boat on a cell phone buying Bitcoin, or you can be BlackRock buying millions or hundreds of millions of dollars of Bitcoin a day. The government has no say in what you do. Bitcoin is your one way out from the government saying, What are you spending your money on today, Mr. Smith? Why are you getting a money order? You don't have to worry about it anymore. So that's why we're buying Bitcoin, because we're trying to get away from the regime. Back in 2008 when the markets collapsed and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people lost their homes because, the market collapsed, they got called on their mortgages got called in because a lot of them had variable rate mortgages. It's interesting that the companies that sponsored the mortgage, all the illegal activities that were going on, the government bailed all of them out. In fact, a lot of these people walked off with golden parachutes of millions, tens, hundreds of millions of dollars, while the consumer was completely screwed. That's why Bitcoin was created, to get away from this bullshit. The rich guys take care of each other. The poor guys suffer. Not anymore, because we have Bitcoin. So, as I've said before, buy Bitcoin. Buy Solana, buy MicroStrategy, buy Tesla because of the AI stuff they got coming out. Tesla's going to be $10,000, 10 years down the road. I mean, MicroStrategy will probably be $10,000. Solana will go to $1,000 probably by December. I mean, it's sitting around 188 today, and then Bitcoin is most likely going to be $250,000 by the end. Maybe more. I don't know. There are a bunch of new YouTube videos coming out with Michael Saylor and the rest talking about how, Bitcoin might actually do some type of, hyper Bitcoinization where you might see a $10 million Bitcoin in 5 years. I don't think it will, but it'd be nice. So don't sell your Bitcoin. What do? You go to ledn.io, LEDN.io. You let them custody your Bitcoin, and then you can borrow up to 50% loan to value. So if you deposit $1,000 into Ledn, you borrow $500. You take that $500, you buy more Bitcoin. You deposit that with Ledn. You borrow half of that, $250. You buy more Bitcoin. Deposit on Ledn. Borrow $125, buy more Bitcoin. So, if you have for every $1,000 you have, you can control about $1,750 in Bitcoin. And if you're paying 30 or 12% interest on your loan to Ledn, and you're getting average 50% a year in Bitcoin, you're netting 38% a year. You're literally using, rehypothecated Bitcoin to make money on your Bitcoin. So it's a really good deal. I've been doing that for a while, over a year, and it's absolutely insane. I mean, I was taking loans on Bitcoin when it was 50,000. And now it's at 18,000. So Scott Bessent came back on YouTube, or on X rather, yesterday and said, hey, you know what? I didn't mean to say that the U.S. wasn't going to be buying. I don't know if you guys heard or not, but he said something about, we have the Bitcoin reserve, we're not going to be buying Bitcoin. And Bitcoin dumped $7,000, right? Well, that's because the big players like BlackRock and Trump and the rest of these guys, I love Trump, they were like, hey, we need to buy more because we know it's getting ready to take off. And so what happened? Retail investors like you and me, they sold. Corporations were buying the shizzle out of it, because they know what's going on. Even though we front ran them, they were smart enough to buy into our stupidity. And Bitcoin, leveled out, sitting around 118,000 right now, which is nice. So, and then he came back and he corrected himself, said, hey, yeah, we are going to buy Bitcoin. We're just trying to figure out ways we can buy it without actually, printing money. Why not just print the money and buy Bitcoin? Why not just revalue gold and buy Bitcoin? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I think they're actually up to something. They're actually buying Bitcoin and not saying anything, and then they're going to just come out and do a press release, and Bitcoin's going to go through the roof, and everybody who's sitting on the sidelines trying to decide if they're going to day trade or trade Bitcoin, you guys are going to get caught with your pants down. It's always a bad thing, especially if you're married. That means, but anyway. So I gave you the information today of what's happening with the banks. Buy Bitcoin. Never, never, never sell your Bitcoin. Rehypothecate it through ledn.io. You can control a bunch of Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin keeps moving up 50% a year, if you do rehypothecate it with Ledn, you never have to pay it back. You can literally let it grow and just pay every year, pay interest on the loan, and you could literally turn 1 Bitcoin into 10 Bitcoin in the next 20 years by rehypothecating your Bitcoin. If you don't know what that means, look it up, Google it, figure it out. Don't over leverage yourself, but it's a really cool way to make money. Anyway. I'm still waiting for it to storm. I keep hearing thunder, but I'm not seeing anything. Me and the kids got to head back home. We're about an hour or so away. And I'm thinking about loaning more Bitcoin to Ledn and actually doing some more rehypothecation. If it dumps back down to like 110, I'm going to dump another couple Bitcoin in there and buy some more just for fun. And just enjoy the ride. But anyway, you guys, buy Bitcoin, buy Solana, put it in cold storage and stake it. Buy MicroStrategy, buy the MSTY stock where you get the monthly dividend, and load up on Tesla and have fun. Crypto noobs, I feel like I'm going to fall asleep right now. Michigan football starts in 2 weeks. I'm so excited. I'm so excited about Michigan football. I love Michigan. But anyway, yeah, that's it. Bitcoin news, crypto noobs, Bitcoin news, crypto noobs. I'm out.